Okay, so I've been seeing this everywhere and I just had to buy one for myself. It's the Neewer Audiio Dolly with wireless remote, and it's extremely popular right now. But is it any good, or is it all hype? I'm gonna go over all the pros and cons. Let's dive in. Alright, so I know you guys have been seeing this everywhere because I have. It's literally probably the most popular thing for filmmakers under $100 currently right now on the internet. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to play games with you guys. I'm not going to make you wait until the end of the video or anything like that. I do like this product. I would recommend it. I'm glad I bought it. And if you are considering buying one, then you should. But it's not perfect, and it does have some pros and cons. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I would appreciate it if you do stick around for the video and hear what I have to say. One more thing, if you found this video informative or entertaining, please consider subscribing and joining our channel membership so we can continue making videos like this one. Alright, if you're sticking around, let me dive into the details. Okay, starting off with the unboxing. Opening the box was actually quite annoying, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. You get the included USB-C cable to charge the unit, and you also have the included remote. A note for parents out there, for those of you to know, you know. The remote takes button batteries, which does not have a screw to lock it in place, so be careful around children. You also have the included manual, nothing special here, pretty straightforward. And they're also going to include a spare O-ring, which is actually the tires for the wheels, and a spare Allen key so you can tighten everything down. You'll also get an adapter for your camera, but I have some recommendations for later. And then you have the unit itself, which actually looks very cool. Very compact, very sleek. I really like the elegant design, and it also gives off this appearance that it's going to be your little robot travel companion friend. Now, I'm not a big fan of unboxings. A lot of people like unboxings, so that's why I include them. But I do want to say that one of the first annoying things, this is minor, this is me like nitpicking, was with the box. It's so incredibly hard to open this box. It's so tight fitting. I mean, everything's jam-packed in here. I guess that's a good thing if you want to be environmentally friendly, but it is quite annoying. Like, you really have to dig in there and pull it out. So like I said in the intro, this is a pretty cool device and it's extremely popular right now, but it does have pros and cons, and that's what I want to go over right now. So some of these may not mean anything personally to you, but I still want to highlight them just to give you guys full disclosure. So let's start off with the pros. A lot of the pros that you've been hearing from other content creators or reviews online, the hype, quote unquote, it's true. It's a really cool, neat little machine, a practical mini dolly, and definitely the biggest pro is it's just so compact. I mean, it's easy to put this in your bag and run with it. And then something else that's a big pro that I want to talk about. I mean, look, you should have expectations, right? Set your expectations. This is tiny. You're not going to be throwing on a huge cinema camera weighing 20 pounds, fully rigged on this thing. So, you know, set your expectations. But the motors are actually pretty strong. I was pleasantly surprised by the motors. It handles my mirrorless cameras just fine. The Sony a7S III, the Canon R5, things like that, you should be good to go. I'm not sure how well it's going to handle something like, let's say, I don't know, a Canon C70 or the new C400. That might be kind of tricky, or if you fully rig out your gear, it's probably going to be a balancing thing where the motors are going to get hung up, not necessarily because of the weight. It may or may not be able to handle the weight, but you know, the balance is going to be thrown off. The other thing that's a big pro is it's incredibly responsive. I actually like the remote feature, the wireless system, and the wireless system works really, really well at a pretty good distance. I mean, you're not going to go like 2 miles away and try to operate this thing, but 20, 30 feet away, no problems. I mean, it operates just fine. So if you're doing this with the crew and your crew members kind of like, you know, hidden behind the scenes, I don't see a scenario where it wouldn't work. The wireless remote system's pretty good. Now, another thing that I did want to mention is I haven't had a chance to take this out on a real professional shoot yet, where there's a lot of things going on, a lot of wireless signals. We got wireless monitors, we got headsets, things like that. And I'm kind of curious to see if there's any radio interference. But again, setting your expectations. You wouldn't use this in a production set. You would use an actual slider or a dolly or gimbals or whatever. Another pro for me is it has an internal battery that recharges. Another pro, but it's also kind of a con, it's extremely adjustable. I don't know what the right word is, but you can adjust this to pretty much do whatever it is that you want it to do. And it's based off of these little markers here, kind of adjust the wheels. But that's also a con because it's not very precise. So keep that in mind. The wheels are also on the thin, small side, and they basically have a rubber O-ring, which they give you an extra one in the box. So it's not going to go off-roading for you or, you know, go down mountains or hills or anything like that. You need to be fairly leveled. But it's well designed, and I think there's a good balance between quality, weight, and practicality. All right, let's talk about the cons. Now, the first con for me, which is quite annoying. Yes, it can be operated through a remote control, pro, but con is it's heavily dependent on the remote control. So there's some side buttons here, right? There's an on and off switch, and then there's your speed adjustment, and then you can go forward or backwards, basically. I don't see a stop or pause button, do you? That's my biggest gripe, is if you don't have the remote, you are pretty much out of luck. Like you can't operate this thing with the buttons. It's almost like they forgot to include a pause button. I guess your pause button is your on and off switch, which is kind of weird, right? I mean, I don't know. So if you are going to use this handheld, just use the remote. I mean, but again, something happens to the remote, kind of screwed. I already touched up on it. The markers aren't very precise. There's plenty of times where I thought I was, going to be straight. It tells me that I'm lined up straight, but it's not quite straight. And again, I think that's also because of the wheels. The wheels aren't that big, so any little bump, if the surface is not completely smooth, it's going to, go off track. Expectations, right? I'm going to go back to expectations. This is not something that you're going to be using for very precise movements. This is something for a content creator that's going to be filming themselves and is a one-man band, and you want some versatility. So it could be a little bit more precise, is what I'm trying to say. Another con, I'm just going to tell you this right now. There's a little threaded attachment so you can mount on a camera or whatever. Just get yourself a cheap little ball head, and you're going to make this even more versatile. I promise you. You don't need to go crazy. Don't buy the most expensive ball head on the market, but having the ability to move the camera around and get the angle that you want is just so much better than the little attachment that they give you. Okay, another con, and this is a personal one to me, so it may not matter to you, but I wish there were sensors, something to sense that you're going to fly off a table. I mean, think about it. You're putting on a A7S III as a $3,500 mirrorless camera on this thing, and you're entrusting it with your life, right? And if you're like me and you're primarily going to be using this to film yourself, one-man band, you're preoccupied. You're not necessarily keeping your eye on it. And let's face it, if you're only going to put it on the floor and get shots like that, it's going to get boring real quick, right? So this also makes a lot of sense on top of a table. Unless you put bumpers on the table, it's going to fly off the table, and there goes your camera. So that's a problem, right? So I think there should have been like something, right? Some safeguard. Again, a safeguard, not something that you necessarily rely on, like a sensor that's going to save the day, but something that will be a backup in case you're not paying attention and it flies off. So you can get creative and mitigate it, but that's a con for me. I wish there was some sort of a sensor or something just to make sure you don't fly off the table. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. This thing pairs beautifully with the DJI Pocket 3. If you own the DJI Pocket 3 and you are thinking about buying this, go for it. Because as soon as you mount it on top of this slider, it's a match made in heaven. Being able to remotely control the Pocket 3 or set it to track you really does feel like you have another camera person filming you. It's a really cool thing. Try it out for yourself, but I found that the Pocket 3 paired with this guy was a really, really welcoming surprise. I mean, I really love how they pair up nicely and they complement each other. So in regards to price, I think it's actually priced really well. Like I said earlier, it's always under $100. You're always going to find it under $100, but it's actually even significantly lower sometimes. So I bought this off of Amazon. It was on sale for $70. I've seen it go as low as $65, but I wasn't sure yet, so I didn't pull the trigger. If you are considering buying it, just wait a little bit and wait for a sale. They seem to happen like every 2 weeks or so, and get it at the discounted price. At the discounted price, it's like a no-brainer, and that's part of the reason why I bought it. There's very little risk. Okay, so I want to end the video by mentioning one last thing. Who is this for? It's not for everybody. Some of you are going to hate it. Some of you are going to appreciate and want and need a traditional slider. A slider that's tracked. For those of you out there that have an actual slider, a track slider, an expensive track slider, you're probably not going to want to buy this thing, or you're going to think that this is a downgrade unless you're looking for that portability and that one-man band feature to spice up your content videos, right? Your YouTube videos, your Instagram reels, things like that, to film yourself with. So I don't think this is for everybody. For those of you that are trying to get a little bit more professional shots and things like that, you're going to find that it's not very precise, and that's going to frustrate you, and you got to be Johnny on the spot with the remote. And that's basically my take on it. I'm happy I bought it, and I just fold it up, stick it in my camera bag, and I know I have it in case I need it, and it pairs really, really nice with the Pocket 3. That's it for me, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care, everybody.